I was talking fantasy football with my friends the other day.
Well, Josh?
Well, look who's back. Where the hell have you been? At home, sitting in your asses?
Go away now, Josh. Actually, my name is Alan.
You're a dorky white kid with a Cub Scout bandana on his head.
Bravo.
Echo.
November.
Tango. On.
Football.
Welcome back to Bent on Fantasy Football. I am Alan, and conspicuous by his absence today is Josh. But don't worry, I've got a note here talking about why Josh isn't here. But I do want to thank you guys for tuning in today. We got a great show for you. Or I have a great show for you, I guess, as it were. But I do want to get to this note, and it's... looks like it might have got a little bit of beer spilled on it. But let me see if I can clarify, because Josh wrote this note to let me know why he wasn't going to be here today. So Josh is apparently with some girls. Josh is with some girls. Awesome, Josh. Good job. All right, buddy. Wait a minute. He's with some he's with some young girls. Josh, hope there's more here. Oh, it's a party. It's a party. Josh is at a party. Josh is at a party with young girls. Okay. Oh, it's his Nick. Oh, it's his it's his niece. His niece's party. His niece. It's a birthday party for his niece. So sorry about that. I didn't really do very well with that note, so I got a little beer on it. But so to sum it up, Josh is at a party, birthday party for his niece with a bunch of young girls. That didn't make it any less creepy, did it? Okay. Well, let's just move on to the show. Let's talk about something else now. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and so like I said, it's just me today, but Josh will be back with us next week, or with me next week, and we're gonna have a heck of a show planned for you next week. So I'm gonna jump right into my beer this week, even though Josh isn't here. The Whirly labels still roll off the presses, so I've got my label this week, and it says I'm talking fantasy football with my friends today, and it sounds familiar, doesn't it? Okay, so we're gonna talk some fantasy football this week. We're gonna talk about Gub, and that's all tied into this because we're gonna try to make this a little bit more fantasy football oriented and get into some details for you guys. So, with that being said, I want you guys to raise up your drinks, and as you do every week, pop open a cold one, sit back, and enjoy the show. All right, and once again, I do want to say thanks for tuning in, guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you have not done that already, just click the buttons down below and like, subscribe, and share, and pass this on to a friend and let them watch this as well. Let's talk about what's got me bent this week. So we call it Gub on the show. What's got me bent is, of all things that I usually don't like to talk about on this show, is kickers. Kickers have got me bent this week, and let me give you a little bit of background on why. So I had to pick up a kicker due to a bye week, and I wound up picking up the rookie kicker from Minnesota, Will Reichard, I believe his name is, or Richard, or I don't know how it's pronounced. But anyway, up to this point, the rookie is 34 for 34. That includes field goals and extra points. He's putting up some decent fantasy numbers. He's really having a solid season. So I run out and I pick him up since he's on the waiver wire out there. I go out and pick him up, right? And the week that I pick him up, lo and behold, he misses his first 2 field goals of the season, ends up getting 3 extra points. So I wound up getting 3 points out of him for the week. But on top of all that, he winds up getting injured and put on IR. So effectively, by picking him up on my fantasy team, I just wrecked this guy's career. I apologize for that, Will. I go out and I pick up Harrison Butker. I think, okay, Butker's out there on the waiver wire, and pick him up. He's a solid veteran, and I should be good. He goes 3 for 3, gets 1 extra point for me, so he puts up about 10 fantasy points for me, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm set on kickers, right? and then the following week he gets injured. So, or he's injured before the week starts. So I'm at the point now where I have no kicker again. So I go out and I pick up Spencer Schrader. And if you guys don't know who that is, don't feel bad because I didn't either until this last couple weeks. He is the guy that replaced Butker for Kansas City, so he's their kicker at the moment. Once Butker comes back, I'm going to have to spend yet another waiver wire pick to get him. So I've spent a lot of waiver wire picks on kickers, and they have really got me bent. The other thing that has me bent with kickers, what is the trend going on with kickers? There is none. So kickers are kicking 55, 60-yard field goals, 60-yard plus field goals like they're chip shots. But yet you have some guys, I'm not going to mention Tucker's name or anybody, but some kickers that are missed 2 field goals in a game or 2 extra points in a game or multiple kicks in a game that are shorter kicks. They are truly chip shots and they're missing them. So kickers in general have got me bent. But on top of all that, heap on top of that 2 games in the last 2 weeks have ended because of blocked field goals. So not only are kickers erratic on their miss and hits on the field goals and their health, but on top of all that, they're also getting kicks blocked too. So to lose the game for them. So it happened to Kansas City. They blocked a field goal, a potential game-winning field goal to end the game, and the same thing with the Pack. They did the same thing to the Bears this last week. I'm not going to dwell on that, even though I want to talk about that. I'm not going to. I will mention something about that game in just a little bit, but we'll come to that in a minute. So that's why kickers had me bent. I know that's a mouthful, and I gave you guys a lot of information, but I probably won't talk about kickers again the rest of the season, at least not that much, but that's why they've got me bent. Even Jake Elliott, one of the most accurate kickers in the NFL over the last couple seasons, has had a rough spell this year. So there's no consistency in kickers. It makes it even harder to manage your waiver wire pickups when you're wasting them on kickers. So all that being said, that's what's got me bent. So I do want to recap this last week's game, last week's game on Monday night, which was Dallas and Houston. Houston, a couple takeaways from that game, okay? Let's talk about Houston first. Houston has a lot of weapons. They've got Tank Dell, they've got Nico Collins, they've got C.J. Stroud's obviously having an awesome season again, and Joe Mixon. They've got a lot of talent on that team. They've even got some talent that's not even coming back for the season. Once they get a full roster, if they get a full roster with everybody, and they start clicking, they're actually starting to click now. But Joe Mixon is huge on this team. I don't know if you guys, over the last few seasons, I've had a history of picking up really, really good running backs as my number one running back. So Mixon has always been on that, or has been on that list the last few seasons. I should say the last probably 3 out of 4 seasons he's been on that list, and here's why. He's getting a little bit up there in age, but he's not slowing down yet. He's still having an awesome season. Dallas, on the other hand, let's talk about Dallas real quick. House of cards, right? So I always said that one of the pieces falls for Dallas, the whole thing crumbles on them, and it has, and it's going to continue to crumble on them. Anybody that didn't see this coming before the start of the season was missing the boat, because they had 3 contract issues that they finally resolved, but 3 major contract issues they had to deal with before the season started. Of course, Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones, so it is what it is. But House of Cards fell apart. Houston crushed Dallas, right? So the takeaway from this, what did we learn? So again, Houston, all these targets, all these weapons, all these things going on. They have a solid defense on the other side of the ball too. So definitely, if you haven't caught on to this yet, Houston, probably the team to beat this year, at least in the playoffs. When it gets down to the nitty-gritty, I don't think Houston's going to be there, but it's going to be a really, really, really good run for them. So from a fantasy perspective, this next week, Houston, They're playing Tennessee. Tennessee has a awesome, number one, in fact, pass defense in the NFL, okay? That being said, they have the number 14 run defense. Now, the plot here, as it was for last week with Dallas, the plot for Houston is going to be using the run to set up the pass. How effective that is going to determine how well Houston does this week. Now, that being said, I still expect a lot of points out of Joe Mixon this week. He's going to be running the ball. He's going to be catching the ball. You're going to see a lot of points from him. Dallas, on the other hand, not Jerry Jones, with the inconsistent quarterback play, I'm downplaying CeeDee Lamb this next week against Washington, even though Washington has given up 7 passing touchdowns, which is, I think, like 23rd or 24th in the league. I'm not sure. Throughout the NFL. So that being said, they're also very stingy on their passing yards that they give up. So if Dallas can make a big play, it's not exactly who Dallas is right now, but if Dallas can make a big play and get the ball downfield maybe once or twice, they don't need to depend on a lot of yards. They just need to depend on a lot of touchdowns. So from a fantasy perspective, I'm down on Dallas this week. I'm very high on Washington, though, because Dallas is not a good defense this year. Washington's going to run all over them. Somebody I want you to keep an eye on. Terry McLaurin's going to bounce back this week. The guy's a solid receiver. He had a bad week. He's been putting up numbers prior to that. Expect him to bounce back against Dallas. CeeDee Lamb on the down. Look for CeeDee Lamb's production for the rest of the season to continue to be either where it was this last week or maybe even lower with an occasional spurt here and there. But I'm fading big time on him. Washington. Let's talk about their running back, Austin Eckler. Now, the reason I'm picking Austin Eckler to talk about here is because he's getting a fair share of the snaps. He's getting some fantasy points. He's on the field a lot of the same time that Robinson's on the field. So keep an eye out. Even though it is a kind of a running back by committee, a lot of times they're on the field together. So they're playing in tandem, not only just as individual players. So keep that in mind. If you're from a fantasy perspective, I would say start Austin Eckler if you have him. I've got him on one of my rosters. I'm starting him this week. I think the matchup is there. I think his snap share is enough to warrant the fantasy start this week. So if you're asking me, that's what I'm saying. So I want to jump to the Bears and Packers game next. Let me take a swig of this because I'm starting to talk a lot and Josh is in here to fill in the blanks. So give me just a minute. All right, Bears Packers. Let's talk about what happened last week. A tip of a finger blocked the potential game-winning field goal and game over. Enough said. That's just how the Bears season is going this year, and that's how it's going to continue to go. They have upcoming game this week with Minnesota, who Minnesota is a solid offense, but don't expect a ton of fantasy numbers out of them this week. The Bears defense is good. They're solid, and they will step up to the challenge this week. So expect Minnesota. Justin Jefferson to probably drop in his numbers. Now, that being said, I think Jordan Addison has a chance of getting his numbers bumped up just a little bit because I think there's going to be more opportunities there for him because I think they're going to be doubling on Jefferson a lot. So keep that in mind. If you've got Jordan Addison, it might be a sneaky play for you this week to start him as maybe a flex or something. That being said, I think that's about all I've really got to say. The Bears have also got to, as far as the Bears go, but the Bears have also got to play Detroit on Thanksgiving, and that's not looking good either. And I'm going to hold my thoughts on that one for right now, but it doesn't look good. So let's jump on to the next game I want to talk about is going to be Arizona and Seattle this week. And the reason I want to talk about this, because normally on my radar, this game probably wouldn't be very high, but Arizona's been playing some good football. They've got some good numbers coming up, or some good numbers in the past. They've got some good matchups coming up. This one this week is an ideal one for Kyler Murray and company. The reason I say that is because Seattle, actually I think this is going to be a shootout because both sides of the ball, or both defenses I should say, are a little vulnerable. I think Arizona is probably going to have a much, much better outcome with this one. However, I see the big benefactors being Kyler Murray as far as fantasy points go, and James Conner for sure. I think he might be a sneaky play too. If you have him on the bench, it's going to be a good matchup. He's going to be a big part of the offense. He's been catching the ball and running the ball both. And Seattle's got the sixth worst defense in the league as far as rushing goes, so it could be a really good play for you on that one. ESPN, as far as Kyler Murray goes, ESPN's has predicted like 19.8 points for Murray this week. I'm going to bump that up. I'm going to say, if it's me predicting, depending on your scoring, of course, but with standard scoring, I would say he's going to be more in the 25 to 30 point range. So if you've got him, start him. I know he's been putting up some real numbers, so he's probably going to be your starter anyway. Last week he had 266 yards passing. He had 1 passing touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns. And I believe he was like 22 of 24, I believe, as far as his completion percentage. So real high numbers for him. So expect the same thing this week. Let's jump on to the Monday night game, because I think that's going to be a key this week too. This is going to be a barn burner in my opinion. It's going to be Baltimore and the Chargers. So both sides of the ball, very explosive. Everybody has seen what that Baltimore offense can do. That threesome of Jackson and Andrews and the wide receiver course. I mean, the whole Henry, the whole thing is just it's explosive in a lot of different ways. Chargers defense, vulnerable. On the other side of it, Justin Herbert's been playing some good ball lately. Baltimore's defense, vulnerable. So you can look for some big numbers in this, but it may be a little bit more lopsided as far as fantasy points go. Not so much score, but fantasy points. It may be a little bit more lopsided on Baltimore, more weapons over there. You got Justin Herbert on the Chargers side of things, but he's been flirting with 300 yards for the last 4 out of 5 weeks. He's had how many has he had? He's had six passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown over that same period. So the Ravens defense has given up the most passing yards in the NFL. So Justin Herbert's looking like he's going to have a big day. He's poised to have a big day. The question is, who else on that team is going to have a big day? Is it going to be J.K. Dobbins? I'm not sold on that. J.K. Dobbins has proved time and time again that he is a really good fill-in running back. He's not a workhorse running back. Especially from a fantasy perspective, he's going to be very, very spotty. It's going to be very much a matchup on a week-per-week basis to see if you really want him in your lineup or not, whether he's going to produce. And who else is out there? McConkey. McConkey's an above-average wide receiver. He just didn't have a lot of compliments to him. I don't know if he's really a number 1 wide receiver. I'm not sold on that 100%. From a fantasy perspective, I don't know what he's been doing on points, to be honest with you, but I don't think it's been a ton. He hasn't been on my radar a whole lot, so I don't think it's been a ton. But if I'm wrong, put it in the comments. Let me know that. I mean, I'll probably check on that after the show's done anyway. But anyway, just so you have an idea. Keep that in mind. On the other side of the ball, I think Andrews might be a good pick this week, too, to start at tight end. Now, it's hard because Andrews, they've been saying this all year long, that he's a team player, and how good he is for the team, and he's spotty as far as fantasy points go. But if you're a fantasy owner, a good team player doesn't necessarily translate into fantasy points, as you know. So that being said, again, a matchup dependent tight end this year. I love Andrews as a tight end, and I think he's a solid tool that they have not been able to use as much as they need to this year. But from a fantasy perspective, I can't condone starting him every single week. Look at your matchups. This week, I think it might be a good pick to start him. Again, a vulnerable Chargers defense will equal fantasy points for the offense in general, and I think Andrews is included in that. Now, that being said, Henry had a little bit of a down week for Henry. I think that's going to change again this week. Again, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to use the run to try to set up the pass. They've got a lot more options as far as run goes and the selection of plays that they have. So, like I said, I still think all the fantasy points are going to be on the side of Baltimore in the form of Jackson, Andrews, and company. I think Henry's going to have a good week. So. Put your all your eggs in the Baltimore basket this week, and I guess I don't have a whole lot more. But Josh, this show is for you. I know you wanted to do it this week real bad and couldn't be here, but that's all right. That's all right. Anybody that doesn't like him not being here, get bent on fantasy football.